You're shopping online. You find something you want, maybe not even need. Price for $100. But then you see it. For payments of $100, no interest, no fees. Suddenly, it doesn't feel like $400 anymore. It feels cheap. It feels harmless. It feels manageable. And that is where the trap begins. Welcome to the world of buy now, pay later. A system quietly reshaping how the American middle class spends money. What is buy now, pay later? Buy now, pay later BNPL is a short-term installment loan. You buy something today. You split payments into smaller chunks, usually for payments over 6 weeks. Companies like Klarna, Afterpay, Affirm, PayPal Pay in 4, Apple Pay Later. They advertise no interest, no credit check, sometimes soft check, instant approval, fast checkout. It feels easier than using a credit card. But here's what they don't highlight loudly enough. This is still debt. Why BNPL exploded in America. Let's understand why this system grew so fast. Post-pandemic spending boom. After 2020, people had stimulus checks. Savings temporarily increased. E-commerce exploded. BNPL became the perfect digital checkout tool. Inflation hit hard. Groceries, rent, gas, insurance, middle-class income, almost flat. People didn't become irresponsible. They became stretched. BNPL filled the gap. Psychological trick. Smaller payments feel safer. $400 hurts. $100 doesn't, even though mathematically, it's the same money. This is called payment framing psychology. And it works. The psychology behind the trap. The pain of paying. When you swipe a credit card, you feel less pain than paying cash. When you split into installments, you feel even less pain. When approval is instant, you feel almost no friction. BNPL removes financial friction. And friction is what normally protects you from overspending. Instant gratification culture. Social media shows perfect homes, perfect outfits, perfect vacations. BNPL turns I can't afford it into I can afford the first payment. That shift is dangerous. The middle class pressure cooker. The American middle class is facing wage stagnation, high healthcare costs, student loans, rising housing costs. BNPL doesn't solve these problems. It smooths them temporarily, like putting tape on a leaking pipe. Where the trap starts. Let's say you use BNPL once. It feels fine. Then twice. Still manageable. Then, shoes, phone, furniture, holiday gifts. Now you don't have one payment plan. You have 6. Each small. But together, it becomes heavy. This is called stacking debt. BNPL companies don't always report to credit bureaus, which means lenders may not even see how many plans you have. You could be over-leveraged without realizing it. Hidden risks most people don't understand. Late fees. Many plans say no interest. But if you miss a payment, late fees apply. And some convert into high interest. Automatic withdrawals. Payments are auto-deducted. If your bank balance is low. Overdraft fees. Bank penalties. More stress. No consumer protections like credit cards. Credit cards offer fraud protection. Chargeback disputes. Some BNPL services offer limited protection. Encourages overspending. Research shows consumers spend 20%, 30% more when using BNPL compared to regular checkout. Because the cost feels smaller, the numbers don't lie. In recent years, millions of Americans use BNPL. Younger users heavily rely on it. Missed payments are rising. The average BNPL user has multiple active loans simultaneously. This isn't a rich people tool. It's increasingly a middle-class survival tool. That's what makes it dangerous. Millions of Americans are using BNPL. BNPL is no longer a niche payment option, it's widespread. Around 15% of us adults reported using BNPL in 2024, up from 12% in 2020 to showing steady growth. Other surveys suggest as many as approximately 49% of Americans have used a BNPL service at least once. And for Gen Z adults, usage is especially high, with over 60% saying they've used BNPL, compared with much lower use among older generations. What this tells us: BNPL is no longer fringe, it's mainstream, used by tens of millions across the country, especially by younger consumers and digital shoppers. Younger users heavily rely on it. BNPL isn't evenly distributed across age groups. Younger adults, especially Gen Z and millennials, use BNPL far more than older generations. For example, about 32% of 18-29-year-olds have missed a BNPL payment, compared with around 12% of those years old. Why this matters: younger earners often have less accumulated savings, less established credit, lower incomes relative to costs of living. So they turn to BNPL not just for optional purchases, but as a way to try to manage everyday cash flow. Missed payments are increasing. One of the strongest warning signals about BNPL risk is that late missed payments are rising. About 24% of BNPL users have made at least one late payment, up from around 18% in earlier years. Younger cohorts are substantially more likely to miss payments. For instance, approximately 39% of Gen Z BNPL users, approximately 35% of millennials, only approximately 11% of baby boomers. Other surveys show late payment rates as high as approximately 40%, 41% in recent years. What this means: nearly 1 in 4, even 2 in 5 BNPL users are struggling to make payments on time, a major red flag for financial stress. Many users have multiple BNPL loans at the same time, a crucial danger that's often overlooked. Roughly 60% or more of BNPL users have held multiple BNPL loans simultaneously. About 23% have had 3 or more active BNPL plans at once. CFPB research found that over 60% of BNPL borrowers had multiple simultaneous BNPL loans, and about one-third borrowed from more than one provider. That leads to debt stacking, where someone doesn't just have one installment plan but several on different purchases at the same time. Why it's dangerous: even if each payment is small, say $30, $50 per month, having many at once can quickly overwhelm someone's budget, especially if income doesn't scale up. This stacking effect makes it hard to track and manage payments, increasing the risk of late fees and financial strain. It's not just a luxury tool, it's becoming a survival tool. Originally, BNPL was used mostly for discretionary shopping like fashion or tech gadgets, but data shows it's being used to manage essential spending too. Many users report they used BNPL to cover purchases they couldn't otherwise afford, with nearly 60% admitting this. Other reports show more consumers using BNPL even for groceries and bills, indicating it's not just for nice-to-have items anymore. This shift from optional to necessary spending is a key reason why BNPL has become a middle-class financial coping mechanism rather than just a convenience. Taken together, these data points show that buy now, pay later is far more than a checkout convenience. It's becoming a financial crutch for many Americans. And when significant numbers of users are missing payments and juggling multiple plans, that means the risk isn't just personal, it's systemic. The middle class squeeze. Let's talk reality. Middle class used to mean stable job, house, savings, retirement plan. Today it often means salary to salary, credit card balances, student loans, car loans, now BNPL. BNPL didn't create the crisis, but it amplifies the fragility. For decades, the American middle class represented stability. Not wealth, not luxury, but security. It meant a stable full-time job, a house with a mortgage you could manage, a savings account, a retirement plan, health care through your employer, a belief that next year would be better. The middle class wasn't rich, but it wasn't fragile either. Today, that foundation is shaking. The old middle class formula 1970s, 1990s. In previous generations, one income could often support a home, two kids, a car, annual vacation, college savings. Wages were rising alongside productivity. Housing prices were relatively aligned with income. Healthcare costs were manageable. College tuition was far cheaper. Credit existed, but it wasn't required for survival. The new middle class reality 2000s 2026. Now let's compare. Stable job? Yes, many people are employed. But wage growth has been slower than living costs. Job security is weaker. Layoffs happen fast. Gig work replaced long-term employment in many sectors. A job exists, but stability feels temporary. Housing prices have exploded in many parts of America. Home prices increased faster than incomes. Interest rates have risen. Down payments are harder to save. For many middle-class families, buying a home feels out of reach. Renting consumes a huge portion of income. Housing used to build wealth. Now it often builds stress. Savings? Emergency savings used to be normal. Today, a large percentage of Americans struggle to cover a $1,000 emergency. Medical bill, car repair, job loss. Instead of savings, many rely on credit. And that's where the squeeze begins. Salary to salary living. Living paycheck to paycheck doesn't mean irresponsible. It often means rent 35–50% of income, healthcare premiums rising, groceries up, utilities up, insurance up, gas up. Even families earning $70,000, $120,000 per year feel stretched. The margin between income and expenses is shrinking. When margin shrinks, stress increases. Credit card balances. When expenses exceed income, credit fills the gap. Credit cards used to be convenience tools. Now they are survival tools. High interest rates mean small balances grow fast. Minimum payments create long repayment cycles. Debt becomes permanent. Student loans. Many middle-class adults are still paying for degrees earned 10, 20 years ago. Student loans delayed. Home ownership. Investing. Retirement savings. Family planning. Education was supposed to be a ladder upward. Instead, it often becomes a weight carried for decades. Car loans. Modern America requires transportation. Public transit is limited in many areas. Car prices increased significantly in recent years. Longer loan terms. 6 years. 7 years. People are paying for cars long after the excitement fades. And now a BNPL enters the picture. Buy now, pay later didn't create these pressures, but it enters a financially tight environment. Think of the middle class like a stretched rubber band. It hasn't snapped, but it's under tension. BNPL pulls it further. Why BNPL amplifies fragility? BNPL is designed for people who are employed, not bankrupt, but cash flow tight. That is exactly the modern middle class. It doesn't target the wealthy. Wealthy people don't need installment plans for small purchases. It targets the almost comfortable. The people who are close to stable but not quite secure. The fragility effect. When finances are strong, installments are optional. When finances are tight, installments become necessary. Here's what happens. You don't use BNPL for luxury. You start using it for back-to-school shopping, holiday gifts, electronics, medical bills, even groceries in some cases. That's when the system shifts from convenience to dependency. The illusion of control. When you split payments, you feel organized. You feel in control. But real control is not needing the installment at all. BNPL companies help consumers manage cash flow. But what if the real business model depends on people being just slightly unstable financially?